try and look for the inside, but it was closed off. There was absolutely no way through there.
He's a determined driver. He'll be trying everything he possibly can.
This is where the excitement's at. This has been really intense.
This is a really spicy battle.
It's still absolutely neck and neck. Right, so swapping paint between the two of them.
After a 2-week break, we are back here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. We are heading to the wonderful Oulton Park here in Cheshire for race meeting number 4 of this championship. It's the penultimate race meeting as well. We are getting very quickly to the close of this championship. My name is Connery Maddock and I'm joined by the ever wonderful Paul Smith, and you quite often mention, Paul, that this is pretty much your favorite track ever. Why?
Not pretty much. It is my favourite track ever. It's the first track I ever came to as a spectator. It is a wonderful track. It's got everything that you want. You've got undulations, you've got tight twisting corners, you've got a bit of a back stretch that you can stretch your legs a little bit in these cars. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful flowing track in the northern countryside. Okay, it's Cheshire, but you know, we'll let that aside. It's a fantastic venue for motorsport, and I can't wait for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we still have some unanswered questions as far as the championship is concerned as well. But this is the calendar that's on your screen right now. You can see we're in the second to last race meeting. There's only 4 races left to go in this Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain Championship. We started at Donington Park, then we headed to Snetterton. We've had our event at Silverstone. We're here at Oulton Park after our mid-season break, and then next week we'll be heading to Brands Hatch for our finale. So a lot to look forward to here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. Here's a little bit of an overview of proceedings if either you've forgotten or are joining us for the first time. Drivers will get themselves an opportunity to do lone qualifying. They're going to be out there all on their lonesome trying to get their fastest lap. They'll get 2 timed attempts in 10 minutes. Then we're going to be heading into our race 1, which is going to be 30 minutes long. Then race 2, also 30 minutes long. Race 2 grid based on the results of race 1. Drivers will be driving with fixed setups as well. They will have no opportunity to change anything about the configuration of the car. So that evens the playing field somewhat. And we'll also be having standing starts, despite the multi-class nature. It can always be very interesting. Speaking of our classes, we have 2. Pro and AM. Pro are using the Porsche GT3 Cup, the 992, and AM are using the Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR. In terms of prizes, the top 3 drivers from each class will win a half-day driving experience at the Porsche Experience Centre in Silverstone. It's an absolutely fantastic experience. If you do get the opportunity to go, or if you want to pay your dues and go, then that is an absolutely fantastic experience. I would recommend it. But the winners of this championship and the top 3 will get it for free. So the pro drivers will get to have the experience in the 911, and the AM drivers will get to drive the Porsche Cayman around the Experience Centre as well, to try and reflect the cars that they're using in this championship. Having a look at the championship order then, it's runaway leaders at the moment is pretty much the theme. In the pro class, it's Matt Caruana with a perfect season so far in terms of race wins. 157 points ahead of Jack Jeffries is 115. Then you got Will Eatwell in third place with George Tyler, and then Dave Martin rounding out the top 5 in pro. It's all oh so close, a little bit further back though, with Matthew Crisp, Luke Andrews and Will Hope in very, very close contention for the top 5. Then in AM class, it's Aiden Carter with 161 at the very front of the field, basically almost there in terms of securing his championship mathematically. Then you've got Adam Graveson in second place with Alistair Pollock in third. Mike Pierce and Chris Chard will round out the top 5 there. So, moving on, we've got a qualifying session to talk about potentially here. Paul, drivers have already got themselves largely their first laps in the bag here at the moment. They're on their second attempts here for the final 5 minutes of this qualifying session. Qualifying potentially quite important here, Paul, wouldn't you agree? Because of the tricky nature of the circuit, very, very narrow out there.
Yes, it is. It's a narrow track, is Oulton Park, so overtaking can be a little bit difficult. And qualifying up towards the front will help your case at no ends, that is for sure. Some quick times coming in. Will Eatwell, Matt Caruana, just 3 100ths of a second separating the two of those. For me, the big battle is actually second, third and fourth place in AM. It's so close between them, just 5 points separating them. It's going to be intriguing to see how that all pans out there. The magic number to look out for at the end of this week is 54 points gap. That's what both Matt Caruana and Aiden Carter need to be provisional champions, of course, pending any post-event stewarding. And we've got one more week to go in it next week as well. I'm sure that they would love to secure the championships this week and have a nice chilled time next week. And Matt Caruana, worth pointing out, he's going to be at the FIA Motorsport Games next week, so he may not be able to race in the final round.
So he pretty much needs to seal it now and not leave it to fate in that final event if he is unable to take part. That's an absolutely fantastic point. We'll see how things go there, but we got this race meeting to go to get over and done with first. Ben Smith locking up into the hairpin there, into the on-camber right-hander. Not quite great, not very good for a qualifying lap, locking up into there. Just a bit of lost time, trying to thread the needle through the tyre barriers on each apex there as they climb the hill and get towards that second half of the lap now for Ben Smith. So trying to recover a little bit of time here in the back end of the lap.
This is only his first flying lap, though. He's got one more flying lap after this, so it's not the end of the world. But you want to get yourself at least a banker lap here. It's so easy to pick up an off-track incident point around this track as well, so definitely Ben will be wanting to just get a banker in and then push on for that second lap. He's got plenty of time as well to do that. I'd love to get a shot of this track from on board, because a lap around here is a real roller coaster ride. Joe Winkelhock, back in 1993, the former British Touring Car champion, he once described this as a mini Nürburgring. And well, going through Old Hall Corner, carry the speed out the corner, you can let it run out wide there. Not that Jonathan Palmer will like that. Then through Denton's into Cascades, and this is a corner that's important. You hug that inside line, don't go too far wide on the right-hand side or else you will get an off-track point. And then into Island Bend. Keep it over to the right-hand side. That opens up this left-hander, and then you need to get the car to the left for Shell Oil's hairpin. As you said, a positive camber. Oh, he's missed his apex there. He must have locked up again. Through there, then out that corner, heading towards Britain's this chicane. Launch the car over this first curb. Watch that inside tyre stack, and then onto the power. Up over hilltop you go. Get the car over to the left-hand side. Brilliant viewing from the left-hand side and the right-hand side here as you go into Hislops, the right and left chicane. Oh, and he's lost it. He's lost the car. That's his qualifying done.
Well. You didn't quite get the opportunity to commentate a full lap there, Paul, of your favourite circuit. But yeah, that's it for Ben Smith as far as qualifying is concerned. Won't start any higher than P12 on the starting grid here today. Cavbud, though, coming towards the end of one of their laps then. Number 53 car slowly working their way around. Have, last lap was, slowest of all the timed laps in that AM category. So the only way is up from here for Cavbud in that number 53 car. But we'll have to see exactly where they place. So coming towards the, start-finish line right about now. How high does Cavbud climb? 8th place at the moment in AM. 8th place is going to remain.
And that's his laps. That's all the chance he gets there. Because it's a time session with lap limited. That clock strikes 0. That's the end of qualifying.
Indeed, it is. The clock just ticking down its final 3 seconds. Will Eatwell pole position in Pro, just 35 thousandths of a second ahead of championship leader Matt Caruana. That one is going to be very, very interesting indeed. But as we get switched over into racing mode, it's going to remain dry here for the entirety of race number 1. We'll have to see what race 2 has in store in terms of the weather. But here's the starting grid for race 1. Will Eatwell, pole position, then Matt Caruana on the front row as well. Jack Jeffries there on the second row of the starting grid, starting 3rd. Then you've got Saruta in 4th. Hope starts in 5th with Armstrong in 6th. In 7th lines up George Tyler with Ben Cooper in P8. Matthew Crisp in 9th with Dave Martin in 10th. Luke Andrews and Ben Smith will line up 11th and 12th. And then the last row of the pro starting order, it's Clem Humberston and Cody Cosford. Down in the AM category, it's Aidan Cutter once again. We're so used to seeing him at the very front of this one. He's pole position in the AM category. Then you've got Adam Graveson in P2, Alistair Pollock P3 with Dwayne Basson P4, Mike Pierce P5, and Denise Pope P6. And then the last couple of runners in AM, it's Roy Weller, Kev Buds, and Chris Chard. So that's top to bottom for each of your categories here for this penultimate race meeting of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. Everyone's on the grid. We are absolutely ready to go for 30 minutes of racing here in race number 1 at Oulton Park. They get the green flag. We are go on the way down in towards turn number 1, and what a launch from Matt Caruana from P2 to P1 in towards turn 1. Will Eatwell trying to fend off those behind. Contact behind. Round goes Saruta. Everyone manages to avoid him somehow as he slides all the way back, 3 wide back in the GT4 pack. And everyone else trying to get themselves out single file. There was an instant further back there, finally, but big moment for Saruta. And what a launch from Caruana.
I think it was Roy Weller, Denise Pope and Cav Budd who all got together in the AMs out of Old Hall. But here we are through the Shell Oils hairpin, heading towards Britain's, and it was an unbelievable launch from Matt Caruana. That's what he needed to do straight away, assert his position in the lead, and then try and work forward now and get the gap. Christian Zaruta trying to work his way through the AMs, and a terse flash of the headlights from one of your AMs there. But yeah, brilliant start from Caruana. You couldn't ask for much better.
Absolutely not. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And we've come to expect brilliance from Matt Caruana over the course of this season. He's almost got half a second advantage already back to Will Eatwell, which, well, it just goes to show what most of the season has been like for Matt Caruana. There have been races, of course, where he has been heavily challenged by both Jeffries and Eatwell, but this is the Caruana that we've seen the majority of the time trying to pull away at the very front of the field. But as they come across the line then to end lap number 1, this is what happens. Christian Saruta on the inside there, and Jeffries coming down and across. Contact made on the apex of turn 1.
And then it's the follow-up. Look at it, 3 cars all trying to make their way past Zaruta, and then bang, 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 all they go off in that one. But yeah, Zaruta, it was a hopeful move, but 2 lines converging, it just didn't work out. And then, as you say, 2 cars heavily into the wall. Roy Weller with the mechanical meatball warning flag on his car. But you can see, where do you go? If you're Denise Pope, where do you go? You're right in the middle of it all. And it's a very narrow track there as well. All you could do really is back off the throttle, which racing drivers don't like doing.
Absolutely, and yeah, Roywell again trying to get it back going, and yeah, it's a heavily damaged car, and actually Roywell is taking the tow back to the pit lane now. So for all intents and purposes, he'll wait a couple of minutes of that tow and then take the fast repair. But bang, yeah, those tyre barriers, they're pretty solid bits of furniture here in iRacing.
Certainly here at Oulton Park, I have spoken to a couple of the people from iRacing, asking them, could you put in those tyre stacks that can actually move a bit? That'd be great, thank you. I've come across so many times. Oh, Hope! What's happened to Edward Hope there? It must have been a slow down penalty or something like that. Yes, it is.
Still has one. And he's still actively trying to serve it now as well. You can see him dropping off the back. That's a healthy slowdown penalty for Ed Hope. I mean, they are quite severe. It's a black flag now. Interesting. Didn't serve it in time, potentially. And yeah, it is within the first couple of laps of the race where the slowdown penalties tended to be a bit more severe, but my words, that was quite a lift off from Ed Hope, and he still didn't get it.
It's so to explain those of you. Oh my goodness! Big slide, big spin, and Glenn Humberston, well, manages to keep it out of the wall there as the AMs now come through. But to explain to those of you at home who are wondering why on earth did he not able to serve that slowdown penalty, if you've not got a clean sector time, so that i.e. not going off track or anything like that, then the iRacing will basically give you a worst case scenario slowdown penalty. And it's in your best interest to try and serve that as gradually as possible to not affect your time quite as much. And unfortunately, he's come a cropper as Edward Hope, and just giving him the black flag, not serving it in time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big shame. So he'll have to come down in and serve that penalty now. So even though he technically already served most of it by lifting out, now he needs to come down in because it just wasn't quite in time. So it's an unfortunate one there for Ed Hope, because he was running up in a pretty decent position, but now we'll slide all the way back through the order, and probably will have to come through the AM category as well, which, as you mentioned in the pre-show, Paul, is not going to be the easiest feat, because the lap traffic is potentially going to be a big concern here.
Can I just say, by the way, Mike Pierce, hats off, a little tip of the hat for racing in VR and giving it the sim racers lean as well whilst in VR. Proper stuff, properly getting into the immersion of it. But here's Alistair Pollock, sorry. He's got Mike Pierce behind and Adam Grieveson in front. And these are the three that are battling for those final two spots in AM to get in the top three of the AM Championship, to get that Porsche experience at the Porsche Experience Centre. So great to see these guys pushing on. And some drivers, they can't get accustomed to VR, but some drivers really thrive in it. They absolutely love it.
Headsets are also much better these days. A lot of the modern ones are very good indeed. So the previous issues like you had with the sort of first-gen headsets, with the screen door effect and the really pixelated views, that's much less of an issue these days. Plus you have a bit higher refresh rate as well, so the bit better latency. So maybe it's worth a go again for some drivers. If they didn't like it the first time with the old headsets, maybe get a newer one and see what it's like. But here comes Ben Cooper then down towards the inside on the number 14 there. That's Cody Cosford trying to defend and hold station, does so just for a moment longer.
And that is one of the few overtaking spots around this track. Get the run out of Druids, head down to Lodge, try and get the move done. Don't do a Team Dynamics Honda Yuasa outfit when they went and took each other out at Lodge Corner on the last lap when they were leading. Yeah, it's very easily done as that, but that's one of the few overtaking spots around here. You can get a run out of Cascades down Lakeside into Ireland, but that's a bit more of a risky move. to make that one. And then really it's down into Hislops after Hilltop is where you need to get the run out of this chicane here at Britain's.
Yeah, try and get that power down, try and get the line through, and maybe that opportunity opens up into Hislops, as you mentioned, but I haven't seen it too much, if at all, here today, so tricky one indeed, but you just kind of have to commit and continue on with it. Cosworth's doing a good job in holding station here at the moment, but we'll have to see how long that lasts, especially considering there's a certain Christian Saruta coming up on these guys.
A certain angry Christian Saruta as well. Very well motivated to try and move forward in all of this. Zaruta's lap time last lap was a 35.4. Compare that to the 36 and 37 that the two in front are doing. So Zaruta out onto the grass on the exit of Lodge into Dealeep. And look at this, into Cascade at the old hall corner. Too wide, bumping, banging doors. Oh! God, he's gone.
Stowe's Ben Cooper, both of them are out of it, and 2 positions gained for Christian Saruta, who manages to avoid it all as the 2 others, Cooper and Cosford, licked their wounds and rejoined the racing circuit. Oh, that was getting a bit too close for comfort indeed through Old Hall Corner, but the battles do continue on here. This is down into the GT4 category, a lot of pressure being given to our race leader, Aidan Carter, trying to hold off Adam Greaveson. And this is, you know, one of the only times that Aidan Carter has been challenged this season, as we see a replay between Cosford and Cooper. That's how it happened, coming off the corner, leaning on the doors a bit too much.
It was just a case of just on the corner exit, on the curbing, just spins up the wheels a little bit and around it goes on the loud pedal. It's interesting to see how Aidan Carter is under that pressure from Adam Greaveson. Adam's wanting to secure his place in that top 3 of the AM Championship, but Mike Pierce has actually made a pass on Alistair Pollock as well, so change of position, and that is how it was a mistake out of Britain's up over Hilltop. Mike says, thank you very much, Alistair, I'll be taking that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we see Greaveson losing a little bit of time there compared to Aidan Carter, giving Carter a little bit of breathing room at this stage of the event. But I'd be very interested to see how Carter defends this one, because of course, you know, he's usually been out front and leading by quite a margin in the vast majority of our races so far. He has been challenged on a couple of occasions, yes, but hasn't really had to withstand a prolonged sort of threat or onslaught from a driver behind. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he deals with that.
Well, remember, Aidan Carter's got 2 points in the bag already for pole position in qualifying, so he's got that in the bank for him. And as we've got change of position potentially further back in our pros, I think it's Luke Andrews. Yeah, they are side by side then. Luke with Matthew Crisp. So those 2 duking it out. Ben Smith not that far behind either. So this is really good going into Water Tower. That's not traditionally an overtaking spot, but you can set yourself up for the run through Druids. Contact between the 2 of them. Ben Smith says, thank you, boys. I'm off.
Crisp out into the grass, loses the spot to Smith as well. Smith looking aggressive in behind, trying to find the line through. But yeah, there's a reason why we don't do too wide too much through that particular section. It gets all tight and congested indeed. But following them through now and through turn 1, that Old Hall corner. A little bit of a run going to Ben Smith this time around as they head down the hill and eventually in towards Cascades. But yeah, this is looking pretty tight in and amongst these 3. A couple of them are big movers. Of course, Ben Smith gaining a couple of spots from where he started. He was from 12th up to 7th. Luke Andrews from 11th up into 6th. So some of these drivers were maybe out of position compared to their race pace with their qualifying effort.
Looks that way, doesn't it? It really does, as they're carrying on then. And through Britain's, great stuff, and these drivers are all being kept together here. it's fun to see. I think you are going to see a little bit more maybe leaning on each other because of it being a narrow track. Oh, not the greatest run through the Hislop chicane for Luke Andrews, and that just allowed Ben Smith to close up. And there's Adam Greaveson again, right onto the tail of Aidan Carter. If I'm Aidan Carter right now, I'm not too worried. If Adam makes a move, I'd say, okay, I'll just sit behind you and minimise the points deficit to him. That's what I would be thinking in his situation, but then again, I've never really been in his position.
You've never been leading a championship by 50 points?
Easier said than done, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, also how much value do you place on a perfect season? You know, that could also be what's at stake here for Aidan Carter. Yes, we have 4 races to go, including this one, but got a perfect record so far in terms of race wins. You want to keep that, right?
It'd be nice. Definitely would be nice for Aidan to hold on to that. But I think, really, your main goal is winning the championship. And if Adam makes a bit of a lunge, you open the space and say, okay, if you're that desperate to make the move, go ahead and make the move. Like I say, in real terms, Aidan Carter, if he fell behind, would only be losing 3 points to Adam with getting that pole position. The fastest lap in AM is also Aidan Carter's right now, so that is an extra point in the bank right now as things stand. Of course, we've still got half of the race to go yet, so he's in a strong position. He doesn't have to win. It'd be nice if he could, though, for Aidan.
Yeah, but that's the story I'm going to run with, that's for sure. Unknown if the winning streak will continue for Aidan Carter down in the AM category. We've still got over half this race left to go, so still a lot of time for things to happen. Looking down the inside, then goes Matthew Crisp on Ben Smith, looking for that overtake in this final sector as they're absolutely neck and neck as they climb the hill. Across the start-finish line they go. Smith on the outside here for Old Hall Corner. Matthew Crisp looking to try and get past through on the inside, and he does just about. Has enough space to track out. Is there a response here from Smith down the hill? I do not think so. He'll look to try and get the run anyway, coming out of Cascades, and is remaining very, very close actually. Might just find an opportunity perhaps in towards the hairpin, or even earlier in towards the island bend, but that door was closed rather sharpish by that number 18 car, and they do go single file in towards that cambered right.
That was a very good move, that was the classic move then, down into Lodge, through Deer Leap and through Old Hall. You've got to work to make the overtakes here, and certainly Matthew Crisp did a good job there. Nice and clean between the two of them as well. So yeah, Crisp now will be looking forward and looking to see, right, can I get back onto the coattails of Luke Andrews in 6th place? Be easier said than done, that is for sure at this point. Matt Caruana, I will point out, not pulling away by that much, and they've caught traffic. Denise Pope, so Caruana is not really pulling away at the front, but Jack Jeffries, James Armstrong, these two absolutely neck and neck.
Yeah, absolutely. Definite split in the front runners of Pro. It's 5 seconds, just over 5 seconds between Eatwell and Jeffries here at the moment. So it's split into 2 sets of 2 for the front of the fields in our fastest category here today. So no big long trains of cars like we saw in the previous race meeting, Paul, where we had a crazy fight at the very front. A little bit more of a muted affair this time around, but gap still within a second for both race leads.
Got to remember as well, Willie, well, defending champion, that's the whole point, that he's got the number 1 on his car. He'll want to just try and get at least one race win, I think.
Yeah.
Will before the end of the season. It'd be nice for him to do that. And do you know what? He would want to do it this round if Matt Caruana does end up missing next week's finale. I think Will would want to beat Matt on track just because of Matt's performances through the season.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, there's still maybe slightly something to prove here for Intl. Of course, you could say, well, he's won a championship. He doesn't really need to prove anything anymore. But, you know, playing second fiddle to Matt Caruana, I don't think it's really anyone's preferred option when you can go and try and get the race win instead, as the pro category dealing with a little bit of lap traffic here as well, which can be very sketchy indeed. And here comes Ben Smith over Matthew Crisp, to committing to the outsides then as we hit the back end of the lap. Crisp will defend that though as they head through the deal leap and keeps himself ahead, but it seems like some of these overtaking opportunities are starting to arise, maybe coming out of Druid in towards Lodge. It's you know, it's definitely making these battles quite a bit more interesting when that opportunity is there, or seemingly can develop.
Yeah, it is the best overtaking spot on the track, but again, you've got to get that run through Druids, have that extra speed coming out of Druids, which is a double apex right-hander. The track falls away from you on the corner exit as well, so the car always wants to understeer out of Druids. So you need to get the run through there. You set them up through Water Tower, get them off of line there through Water Tower into Druids, and then that allows you to then make the move down into Lodge. But as we've seen, you can't necessarily get the job done in Lodge. You've got to get it all the way through to Old Hall to try and make that work for you. But oh, a bit of a on-power oversteer moment for Ben. And that just goes to show these cars, these GT3 Cup cars, the 992, they've no ABS, no traction control. It is these pros have got to wheel these cars, and look at that great run again. But again, Crisp taking that defensive line into Lodge.
Yeah, and well, Smith, he really drives in hard, gets a lot of mid-corner speed and exit speed out of Druid to try and make that happen into Lodge. He's done the same thing out of Lodge and now into Old Hall corner here, but defending the inside is the place to be there through that first turn, and Chris maintains the advantage.
There's a change for second place in Am as well. Adam Grieveson's dropping back, and he must have issues with how quickly he's dropping back.
He's disconnected, I think.
No.
Oh, he's in the wall. Actually, on my own view, he's stationary in the wall. And now he takes the tow back to pit lane. So I'm not exactly sure what has happened here to Adam Grieveson.
Something has happened out there. Remember that him and Aidan Carter were fighting really hard for the race win in GT4. Here we go. Here's what's happened. So this is out of Britain's, and the car just slow. Wow. That's really slow. That looks like that's a hardware failure right there.
Ooh. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. That is unfortunate there for Adam Grieveson. He was looking like he was going to get his well, at least one of his best performances in a race so far this season, at least in terms of how close to Aidan Carter he was. But now that's all in the bin as the GT4 battles do continue here. Alistair Pollock looking to go the long way around on Christian Chard here, and actually Pollock will get a run, has a bit of an advantage here on the way in towards the island bend, but he's going to be hung out to dry slightly here on the outside. If he can maintain the outside, it might turn to gold, because he'll then get to the inside for the hairpin, and there we go. Christian Chard up high, can't quite get the turn in.
The worst place to be in the Shell Oils hairpin is all the way up on the top side of that corner. It's dirty up there. People don't go running out there, and then, well, you just end up understeering all the way through. And Adam, it's quite a brave move to make that move through Island Bend, I can assure you of that. And that was a really good move and respectful. Big block up from Chris. That's allowed both Dave Martin and Christian Zaruta, as if, contact between him and Zaruta.
Yeah, Chris really desperately didn't want to lose that extra spot there to Zaruta, and well, to be fair, Zaruta was you know, they were fighting for space, shall we say, coming off of the exit to the corner. Of course, Chris wanted to make Chris a tighter line as possible to potentially limit the options for Zaruta coming off the corner and force him out the throttle. But yeah, I don't think that was appreciated too much on the part of Christian.
remember, he's racing motivated, is Christian here. So he's got the car on the outside. It's just a slight touch. Door to door, wheel to wheel. And Christian did well to hang on to that, actually. He did a really good job there. So Matthew Crisp stays ahead of him. Luke Andrews and George Tyler, they're switching position as well out there. So Luke is up yet another place, 6 places gained. And Tyler just getting caught out by that lap traffic. And look how close that race lead is overall.
Yeah, just, well, hovering around that half a second mark. Will Eatwell continuing to try to suggest in Matt Caruana's mind that he's a threat, and, well, maybe the lap traffic will help somewhat. You know, it can either, flip a coin. It's either going to fall in your favor or it's not. And in fact, it's going to fall in Will Eatwell's favor here at the moment as Caruana. Ooh, that gap is getting so close, and there we go. There's how the lap traffic has affected things, as Eatwell really is aggressive on the way down in towards the Hislop chicane, and through Nickbrook, that right-hander. Again, that was a big opportunity for Eatwell because he had a big run coming across Hilltop.
Yeah, Wayne Basson was nowhere to go in all of that into Britain's. Did the right thing, held his line, but Matt Caruana just had to back off, wait patiently for the corner exit, and that allowed Will Eatwell to get right onto his tail. And with 6 1/4 minutes remaining, we're looking at around about 4 laps of this race. And they're coming up towards the battle for 3rd place between Pollock and Chard. Well, we've seen how those two have been fighting, so this could be interesting for your overall race leaders.
Eatwell's just hoping that the traffic falls in his favor once again. I mean, both drivers are hoping the traffic falls in their favor. You know, it might be the thing that decides this race for the pro lead, as both of them have a bit of an awkward moment coming out of Cascades there. Running very wide. Caruana gonna get in towards the shells up in behind the GT4 machines. This is where Eatwell's gonna catch up potentially. Where does Caruana get himself through? I don't think he'll have time on the way down in towards Britain's. He's gonna try anyway around the outside too, wide through the chicane. Backing out is Christian Chard. 4 seconds the issue is Will Eatwell in behind. He got through quite quickly as well too. So this is tense stuff, isn't it? Watching this traffic and worrying what happens down into these chicanes.
I couldn't watch going into that chicane. That was a bit tense, was that? And Will Eatwell, he had to be forceful there and had to force his way through. Now, fortunately for Matt Caruana, he's got ahead there of Pollock, and Eatwell has been able to follow at that point of the track, or else if Eatwell had been stuck behind Pollock all the way through Druids, that would have been his chance of a race win gone. But Eatwell's still got a chance. He won't give up this fight. Not yet.
Yeah, indeed. Why not? He's maintained the gap pretty much all race. Now he just needs to get that tiny little advantage, try and get an opportunity, an overlap. Traffic helping or not, Eatwell needs to do something, otherwise Caruana will continue on his perfect season in terms of race wins. That's what's at stake here. Of course, we get to talk about the final race meeting as well, where is a question mark over whether Caruana will attend or not. But for Will Eatwell, he needs to treat this race sort of as a singular thing at the moment. Go for that race wing, minimize the points gap. Yes, he's 3rd in the championship, but it's a titanic battle between himself and Jack Jeffries for that particular spot. And, well, a race win will certainly help as they get disposed of the lap traffic quickly. They needed that.
Yeah, Mike Pierce just deciding I'm on my own. I'm in nobody else's race. I'm not going to get in the way of these two. And did a really good job. Great heads-up driving by Mike. And to be fair, our GT4 traffic have been doing a really good job out there of keeping their eyes on these pro drivers, the AMs, trying not to disadvantage too much, but also not affecting their own races, as Zaruta still on the back of Crisp.
Yeah, indeed he is. So many battles to keep an eye on here. Tight run thing between Saruta and Crisp. I mean, you can also count Dave Martin in this in the number 4 at the front of the trio here as well. Undecided battles inside of the final 3 minutes of this first race. at Oulton Park. Our penultimate race sweeting championship slowly but surely drawing itself to a close as there's an opening on the inside. Saruta trying to cram his nose in. Door firmly shut in his face though as they come out of the lodge.
Well, I was never on for Zaruta. He was too far back, and look how it's cost him on the exit of lodge through D-Leap. It's cost him time. He would have been better just staying behind and getting the run. But now that lap traffic affected Dave Martin there. But again, getting out of the way, that's going to compromise Crisp on corner exit. And look at the run that Zaruta's got there.
Yeah, absolutely. Saruta, absolutely, massive. But as they get themselves in towards Shell Oil corner at the hairpin, here's the battle for the overall race lead then. Will Intl as close as ever. Close indeed on the way through his lots. Only just shy of 2 minutes left to go, however. It's going to end, sooner rather than later, and Intl is in a fantastic position. Does he size up that move now out of the Druids and into Lodge? That's the opportunity that most people have been going for. Intl with the slightly tighter run coming through Druids. Is that an opening? Is that opportunity into Lodge? Forces Caruana to go defensive into here. Intl with the big wide arc to the corner. Try and get the drive off the corner through the D-Leap and across the start-finish line. It will be one more lap to go across the line.
I think we've seen where Caruana's maybe not quite got the edge over Will. Out through Druids, that's where Will Intl got the really good run. And I tell you what, this has been a great drive by these two at the front. Intwell's trying to carry the speed out of Cascades in towards Island, but he's too far back, I think. Oh, he's maybe going to show a nose, is he? No, he hangs off for the time being.
Caruana under an immense amount of pressure here into the Shell Oil corner. The long camber right-hander. No mistakes from either of the two from this point forward. Intl has the speed, he has the grip at this stage in the race. It's obvious that if this was a clear air competition, he'd probably come out on top. But as Caruana butchers the exit of this Britain chicane, Intl will have a run across Hilltop. Will he go for the opportunity into his lops? It is so risky. A slight overlap into here. Caruana is able to hold on. Both of them have compromised lines as Caruana leads in towards this final half of the lap here. Both drivers completely overdriving their cars, if you ask me, here at this moment in time. Caruana has a little bit of breathing room with 2.5 tenths of a second in towards this final sector. Intl trying to get that run through Druids, but it's not as good as last time. Yes, there's traffic ahead, but I don't think it'll be a factor. Matt Caruana in towards the final corner at Lodge and just looks to nail the throttle, climb the hill, and take another race win. Matt Caruana under pressure. He's a safe pair of hands though and takes the race win here in race 1.
I tell you what, I think that's a look of relief from Matt Caruana there. Oh boy, did he have to work for that one. That was great to watch as the rest of your pros are coming across the line. Aiden Carter was that far ahead of his compatriots in AM that he's going to be finishing on the lead lap. He's going to be the last driver across the line.
That's crazy. So yeah, a lap of honor for Aiden Carter here at the moment, and yeah, so will be the only driver on his own lap in the AM category. That is an intriguing one for sure. Although he was challenged in the early stages of this race, unfortunately, it was Adam Graveson that ended up having some form of technical or hardware failure, which put an end to his race win hopes, and it's going to be another one in the bag for the 43.
And that's Matt Caruana and Aiden Carter both keeping their perfect win run going here in this championship. It's been incredible to watch these two with the capabilities that they've had out there, and again, Aiden has been pushed. You mentioned in this race, Adam Greaveson was pushing him. Just think back to Donington Park, the very start of the season, Aiden was under some serious pressure there as well, but he's done a superb job here in AM.
He absolutely has. So he'll come across the line to take another AM race win. the number 43 extending the advantage at the very front of the order in the AM category and getting very close to making it mathematically impossible for anyone else to take the championship. But as we look at the unofficial race results, of course, this is a pending stewards review from race number 1, and don't go away because we'll have race number 2 coming up very, very shortly indeed. But it is Matt Caruana winning by well, just over 0.3 of a second back to Will Eatwell. Then it's Jack Jeffries about 5 seconds further back than that in 3rd place. Then James Armstrong in 4th. Then you got Luke Andrews, George Tyler, Ben Swift, Dave Martin, Matthew Crisp, and Christian Saruta rounding out the top 10. And then the final 4, it is Ben Cooper, Cody Cosford, Glenn Humberston, and Ed Hope. Ed Hope, of course, getting that early penalty. Then you look at it's another race win from Aiden Carter and ends up finishing on his own lap. Then it's Mike Pierce in P2 with Alistair Pollock in P3. Then you got Chris Chard in P4 with Wayne Bass in P5, Cav Bud P6, Denise Pope 7th with Roy Weller 8th, and Adam Graveson in that 9th place. So, our first race here at Oulton Park is in the bag, Paul. It was a very, very intriguing affair. I think it's okay to say, because, you know, I go into these races at Oulton Park usually thinking, yeah, again, it's tricky to overtake. It might turn out to be a little bit processional, but it was anything but. Absolutely.
I think the nature of the track does help keep people together out there on track. It really does. But also, you know, we saw some great overtaking moves being made out there as well. A couple of forceful moves, a couple of issues out there for 1 or 2. I mean, this very start of the race, Christian Zaruta is just combining lines all the way through Old Hall, and then of course that then had the knock-on effect for Denise Pope, Roy Weller, and also for Cav Bud as well, who was involved in that incident in Am right at the start of the race. But after that, really solid, good races out there from them. And of course, we've got another race to come. Brilliant.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And we don't know what the weather's going to be like as well. The weather has been, you know, a talking point over the course of this season. I mean, we had a dry race for race number 1. We don't know what it's going to be like in towards race 2 until we get the server up, essentially. So that's going to be an unknown for the drivers as well. But yeah, it's again, you know, the drivers that took the race win here, Matt Caruana, Aiden Carter, you know, those 2 drivers are absolutely excellent. However, both of them were challenged at points here today. So even though they're, you know, in both cases, essentially running away with the championship, quote unquote, right? It's still, you know, the points don't tell the whole story. Let's just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both Caruana and Carter have both had at times races where they've just walked away from the rest of the field. You know, that's fair to say. But a lot of these races, they've both been pushed in their respective categories, and they've had to work a really lot to try and hold on to those wins and to get those wins. I mean, again, think back to the races where we've had mixed conditions. Caruana hasn't necessarily always seemed the best in those mixed conditions. He's been able to come out on top, but had to work for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had many an exciting race over the course of this season, and we'll just have to see what happens here in race 2. If you're unfamiliar with the series, the race 2 grid is, we won't do another qualifying session. It's not a reverse grid. It's just based on the results from race number 1. So if you've had a poor race number 1 and not been able to recover, then you'll put a disadvantage here for race 2 as well, which is potentially one of the only negative things about this kind of format. Usually we use the reverse grids as sort of like a recovery mechanism for the drivers that didn't quite do well in race number 1, or to spice things up in race number 2. But that's the way we do things here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain, and it's more rewarding that consistency rather than giving opportunity for drivers to come back from a downfall.
If anything, it's a bit more of a pure form of motorsport. You know, some championships will mix things up to try and spice up the entertainment side of things, but that gets a bit more sort of sports entertainment side of things, if you ask me, when you start getting weight penalties and various things. But in terms of a purist thing, starting where you finished, it means that if somebody has a really good charge through the field, it's so much more rewarding that they've had to do that hard work to come through and to make it up through the field, especially around a track like this. And we could see someone like maybe Edward Hope, after his issues out there in that first race, actually ended up with a disqualification. So I don't know what happened there in that
Didn't
race.
serve his penalty, maybe?
No, he did. I saw him go into the pits. It's whether he didn't serve it in time is the question. So yeah, so he did end up with a disqualification from the race server by iRacing. So it'd be interesting to see if he's able to then push through the field. He got his podium last time out. You never say never, do you?
Absolutely never, especially when the racing has been as close as it is, and there's still opportunities to overtake here at Oulton Park, as we found out in that first race. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on Ed Hope, because he had a decent qualifying performance, and up until this instant had decent race pace as well. So we'll have to see what happens there. But yeah, recovery drive for Ed Hope potentially. I want to see a little bit more from Jack Jeffries in this particular race, because he was sort of there or thereabouts. Solid performance, but not the fighting for the race win as we've seen him do over a couple of races this season.
Yeah, he was third place, but 5 and a bit seconds back, and he just didn't match the pace of the leaders. The only time that he did match the pace of the leaders was when they were squabbling. So I think Jack will be looking at this and thinking, oh, what if? But we've got this second race. We saw the launch that Matt Caruana got in that first race. You never say never. Jack Jeffries or even a James Armstrong might come through from the second row of the grid and have a real charge off the start line.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the situation there. Of course, we've been able to get into our new race server as well, and I can report that still 0% chance of rain. The wind's picked up a little bit, however, so that might have some form of minor effect on the cars in terms of how they handle into certain corners, but roughly the same sort of conditions as we had in race number 1.
I've been to Oulton Park many, many times. I was explaining to the guys here in the commentary booth that 30 years ago was my first visit to Oulton Park on the 30th of May 1994. And then I aged myself when I realised that Connery wasn't even born then, and Army Duty Hugo was 3 days old. So yeah, it was quite the humbling experience there to find that out. But I've been here when it has absolutely bucketed it down with rain, huddled underneath an umbrella on my little fold-out chair. But still, Oulton Park, even when it's absolutely pouring down, is a fantastic place to go and watch motorsport, and I thoroughly recommend it to people. Just be prepared for all weathers.
I mean, that's just sort of motorsport in the UK in general.
There's not covered stands at Oulton Park, so you can't retreat to a covered stand.
Yeah, maybe you could find a big tree potentially along the back end of the lap if they actually allow you back there. But yeah, it's. Yeah, well, if you ever go and see go to Oulton Park in real life, I guess there's the advice from Paul Smith. But drivers are out there sort of getting their warm up in. It's it's not really much practice, so to speak, you can do in situations like this. It's more just sort of getting your sights set and getting yourself prepared for what potentially might be quite a contentious race number 2, especially given that we have a little bit of a change on the front row for the pro category. It's Caruana starting in first this time around. So we'll have to see if he's able to get a similar launch from that side of the grid versus the other side, because there might be a difference here, because of course that pit straight is very, very undulating, and different grid spots better than others in terms of how level they are and how much of a a launch you can get off the line.
We'll be talking about that next week at Brands Hatch, because you do not want to start from pole position at Brands Hatch. But yeah, Oulton Park, it's relatively flat on the front couple of rows of the grid. I've actually been on the grid all the way at the back down in Dearly, and it's literally a case of they have a light, the start light on a pole for you to be able to see it from that far back. So yeah, I've been there, done that. Even held the driver's name on the grid as well. So yeah, certainly it's a tricky track to get a launch from, especially if you are further towards the rear.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was one of the big deciding factors from race number 1, which is why I bring it up for race number 2. It allowed a good launch, allowed Caruana to get ahead and get clear in towards Old Hall Corner for the first time, because he started in second place, you know, losing that qualifying battle in terms of pole position, but ended up making it not matter just by a good start. So we'll have to see if there's a repeat of that from any of the drivers here today, because that could really throw a big spanner into the works, especially if someone maybe even a row or two deep is able to get a much better launch than those ahead as well. Of course, we have to consider the interactions between the pro category and the AM category as well, them having to start so close together, which they wouldn't normally do in a multi-class event. When you have a rolling start, usually the done thing is to split the classes up into their own little groups and get a clear race start. So when incidents happen in the first group, they don't tend to affect the second group. However, when you have a standing start like this, and like we saw with Saruta, if there's an incident in the pro field, it's the AM field that has to deal with it too.
Yeah, it's when you have that sort of compromise yourself. You got to think big picture. If you're in the slower category, you've got to think that big picture and think, okay, if I'm coming up to, say, Britain's, for example, like we saw in that first race with Caruana and Eatwell, they got stuck behind one because, quite rightly, it was, no, I'm in front going into the chicane, I'm going to hold on to that place. But then, the following lap, they had the same situation, but the GT4 driver, the AM driver, was compromised because they had to back out, and it was a little bit awkward going into Britain. So you've got to think big picture and think, okay, if I just lift off a little bit, let them pass going into the chicane, I can still get a minimal amount of time lost to then come out of that chicane. And you've got to think that way in several places.
You got to think about that sort of thing when also interacting with lap traffic as well, as we saw that become more and more of a factor at the back end of that race, especially as those leading pro drivers were coming up on them. There were a few compromised runs for either driver that could have really turned the tide of the battle either way. And you know, the best drivers tend to try to plan as much in advance those moves when they see lap traffic further down the road. You're already thinking, okay, where can I best get past here, when will I just have to call it quits and stay behind? It's a very tough decision to make, but you'd rather keep yourself in the race rather than finding yourself in a tire barrier on the outside of one of these corners. But we have 40 seconds left remaining in the little warm-up session here before we get onto our starting grid for our second and final race of the evening. And then we've only got 2 more races to go after that next week at a finale where we'll be crowning our champions officially and closing up this season, which has been incredibly fun all the way up until this point, Paul. Yeah, it's been fantastic. It's one that I've thoroughly enjoyed commentating on once again with yourself, Connery, and we get to see some of the great British tracks, and of course, coming soon to iRacing in the future, they have said that okay, we've got Cadwell Park, but that track doesn't really suit these cars. But Thruxton, that's the track I'm really looking forward to. I love that track; it's fantastic. We can basically get a fully featured British calendar at that point if we get Thruxton on the service. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. But we're going to get ourselves into race number 2 here at Oulton Park for Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. We'll have to speed through this one, but it's same as the results from race 1. It's Matt Caruana pole position, then Will Eatwell on the second row. Then you got Jack Jeffries, James Armstrong, Luke Andrews, George Tyler as far as the pro order is concerned. And Smith, Martin, Crisp, Saruta, Cooper and Cosford rounding out the top 12 there. Glenn Humston and Ed Hope rounding out the pro order. And then back in AM, it's Aidan Carter from Mike Pierce. Then you've got Alistair Pollock, Chris Chard, Wayne Basson and Cav Budd down to P6. And then you've got Denise Pope starting 7th, Roy Weller starting 8th, and Adam Greaveson starting at the very back of Am. Let's see how far up the grid he can get. He has a lot of pace behind the wheel of that car. Just an unfortunate technical issue in race number 1 meant that he finishes right at the back. Drivers getting themselves in and ready then for our final race of the evening here at Oulton Park. Those engine notes will rise. What's the start like this time from Caruana and the rest of the front of the pro order? A little bit more even this time around. He will have to try and defend from Jack Jeffries, who got a nice start. Side by side behind between James Armstrong and the driver of Luke Andrews, as there's a bit of an instant behind. The Am drivers having to deal with it as well, as that was Matthew Crisp, at least one of them, incredibly slow, having to rejoin the circuit.
Zaruta was the other one, but look at Eatwell. He's trying to make the move into the inside of Ireland. That's a brave move if he can stick it out. The problem for him is on the high side, coming into Shell Oils. Oh, that's not the side you want to be on. And there you go, Caruana stays ahead.
You just can't get the nose in when you're up on that high side coming through the Shell Oil corner. It's really not the place you want to be. Big incident in towards Britain's car on its roof. Cars spun around. What has happened back there?
Carter's involved in that. Aiden Carter, our Am Championship leader, is recovering. Oh my goodness, this has been absolute carnage at the start. Ben Cooper was the car up and over.
Ben Cooper in the wall, solo incident as far as I can see. Tyre barrier spat him back into traffic, and Carter pretty much had nowhere to go. The car can easily block the line in towards Britain's, and it will probably mean that we finally get a different race winner in one of your classes. Currently, the driver in the lead in Am is Mike Pierce, but he's followed very closely by Alistair Pollock.
Well, talk about a dramatic start to this race. Good luck to our producer Hugo Luis in trying to get you all the replays of that. It was great stuff between Caruana and Eatwell, and those two haven't finished, by the way, I can tell you. Meanwhile, Pierce and Pollock, they're duking it out for the lead in Am.
Duking it out for the lead in pro as well. Caruana and Eatwell very close on the way in towards the island bend. Is there an opportunity into Shell Oil this time around? No, there isn't for Will Eatwell. He's also being harassed by Jack Jeffries as well. So Caruana unable to establish an advantage at this early stage like he did in race number 1. He's definitely back in the pack. There was an incident involving the number 2. Hard into the wall goes Christian Saruta. That was with Chris. And then, of course, we had that absolutely humongous incident down in towards Britain for the first time. There we go, bang. Oh.
Cody Cosworth as well was involved in that one. Yeah, Cody Cosworth has gone back to pits as well. It was locking up the rears going into Britain's. That's what sent him into that tyre barrier. And as I said, that's why I said those tyre barriers, they do not play kindly, and that is what happened to Aiden Carter.
Just nothing he could do. Absolutely nothing he can do. It's one of those ones that's going to be difficult to take, because you know what are you meant to do in that situation? It's just a bolt of lightning from Thor as far as Aiden Carter is concerned, and it's completely unavoidable.
Pollock to the lead of Am. I think Pierce has got a bit of damage on his car from that incident on the front end. Yes, he has. Will Eatwell is battling for the lead in pro as well on our timing tower. There's a change, and well, there you see them side by side on the bottom for the pro lead.
Absolutely, Eatwell having another attempt, but again, it's the outside for Shell Oil. It backdoors go on the apex of the hairpin there. Eatwell's able to maintain the overlap against the odds on the outside here, but he's going to have a disadvantage in towards Britain's and has to fall back in line. And Jeffries is being very, very patient about this.
I think Jeffries is waiting for these two to knock 7 bells out of each other and him to swoop through and take the lead right now. That's what it looks like here. Oh, excitement all the way through this opening of the race, and we've not even been 5 minutes here. It's fantastic.
Oh, what a change compared to the start of race number 1, that's for certain. Here's the view from Jack Jeffries, and Intl driving like a man possessed at the moment. He's had a huge turn of speed, not only in the back end of race number 1, but continuing into race number 2 as well. Mike Pierce out wide, big moment, swapping around for the battle for the pro lead as well. Intl, a massive amount of pace at this stage in the race. He's really go, and he's got himself the race lead in pro as well. Jeffries was looking for an advantage over Caruana as well, and keeping James Armstrong in the picture here as well. Will Intl to the race lead from P2.
I think Intl realised from race 1 where his advantages were, where his disadvantages were, and he's made the most of this. Now remember, Will Intl, he set the fastest time in qualifying, so he, over 1 lap, has got the edge over Matt Caruana. But you can guarantee that Caruana won't give this one up without a fight, that is for sure. But look at the queue of cars behind them. This is tremendous. This is first all the way down to 9th.
All in one big long train heading their way through Britain's now. Oh, that's a great sight, at least if you're a spectator. Maybe not so much for the drivers, but it's all a matter of perspective in the end, isn't it? As we have our action in the AM category as well, because the top 3 there are still pretty close. The Aiden Carter out of this race has blown the AM race wide open, similar to the pro category. Sit back,
get a beverage of your choice, and enjoy this one. This is an absolute cracker. Caruana through Druids, and like I said, you run wide. Oh, Carter went for the move, and he's ended up in the barrier. Oh, it goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, trying to recover, trying to get through on Wayne Basson with a move down the inside at Hoyslops, but it doesn't end up working out. Yeah, it's tricky to go too wide through there. There's a look at the replay. There's an overlap to the inside. Perhaps Carter needed to be given the space, but what space can you give down into there?
No, you can't leave the space there. He is... is he alongside enough? I don't think he is. Carter should have backed out of that one, looking for that overhead shot. Here we go. This is the perfect shot here, and he's alongside the rear wheel. That's not far enough alongside, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, it's on for the steward's room, that's for sure. As you've given your opinion on it, and we'll see what the steward's opinion is of it. But in the end, it doesn't change the result, does it? As it's Aiden Carter down on towards the pit lane now, and no doubt has already used his fast repair. Denise Pope, Jesus, wow, narrowly avoiding the car rebounding all the way across the circuit there. She's counting her lucky stars, that's for sure.
That's where you thank whatever deity that you support at that point. My goodness. Well, the leaders, I mean, they're still together, but Intl slowly eking that gap out just that little bit. It's been a really exciting opening to this race, drama filled. But I think now what you're going to see is a little bit of a settling down. The thing that Caruana doesn't want to do is push that car too hard and work those tyres too hard. It's so easily done, and even though it is a 30-minute race, if you push too hard on those tyres, you can overwork them and feel that tyre wear into those final 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah, you absolutely can. There's starting to be a separation between the front 2 and the rest of the field here at the moment. This is a similar thing to what we saw in race number 1, where Jeffries and Armstrong et al. Are not really able to keep up with the pace of the front 2 when they're not fighting. When they are, of course, all bets are off. But if they're just sort of stagnant like this, just following each other relatively closely, then it seems like Intl and Caruana have a huge upper hand over the rest of the field that they just can't deal with.
Really close fight in AM as well, further down. Mike Pierce and Adam Greaveson have been swapping places on this lap. I remember those two, they're involved in that fight for the top 3 spots in AM Championship. And remember that prize that you get at the top 3, that Porsche Experience half a day at the Porsche Experience Centre. Cav Budd has taken the lead in AM as well from Alistair Pollock. Pollock is in a strong place right now in terms of championship points, but he can't get embroiled in too much of other people's fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a mistake from Pollock into Shell Oil that ended up with a Cav Bud down his inside and taking the position there. So, you know, it's an interesting situation for these guys, you know, especially in AM, where it's been Carter really sort of taking home all the prizes as far as the race is concerned. Caruana slides. Caruana's out in towards the gravel at the very top of your screen and sliding down the order now. Caruana from second all the way down to 8th, maybe even 9th. Oh, that's gone horribly wrong.
Well, what happened there? Did he just snatch a break? Did he lock up on a down change? Did he touch the grass straight away? Trying to make the recovery drive on Ed Hope. He's going to have to hope for a bit of space there, and he got pushed onto the grass. Ed Hope, he's not going to give that one up without a fight.
No, I mean, this is a race for position. It's not a lap traffic at all. So Ed Hope is well within his rights to defend this, and defend that he does on the way down in towards his slops. Now Caruana, this is maybe a bit of red mist right now. Forces the driver wide, the door slamming. I think that was a bit too much there from Caruana. Maybe a little frustrated at whatever happened to put himself into this position.
Well, if it was a mistake, he'll be frustrated with himself. If it was contact, then he'll be frustrated with somebody else. And the last thing you want to do is take it out on other people, because then you're inviting the race stewards to be taking a look at your behaviour on track, and that can give you penalties. Remember, everybody watching at home, that we do have stewards, but they generally look at things post-event, and drivers can also raise protests. Here we go. Look, he was on the grass. It's all his own mistake. That is his own mistake there. Through Denton's into Cascades. He had 2 wheels on the grass, touched the brakes, and around he goes.
Yeah, fast traffic coming up on him as well there with the rejoin. It's it's a bit of a sketchy moment there, but oh, how things change. Will Eatwell now with a 2-second advantage over Jack Jeffries. That is a great position to be in, and Jeffries a little preoccupied here by James Armstrong being all over the back of him.
Well, these two are carrying on a fight from previous rounds, aren't they? Jeffries and Armstrong, as they go into the Hislop chicane. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're in charge of the Porsche social media feed, grab yourself some highlights from this one and get that up, because it's been fantastic racing.
Chris Chard and Alistair Pollock going wheel to wheel through the island bend. This is a 2nd place in the AM category. Pollock going to have to deal with being on the high side here, although Christian Chard hasn't got the greatest of run-ons on the inside there. Has a half a car length advantage as they come out of here and get themselves in towards Britain's. No overlap now, although Chard has not got the most ideal line through, but Pollock is compromised coming off the corner. There goes Denise Pope potentially up in towards P3. Roy Weller's looking to try and get his nose in on this one as well. Side by side between Pollock and Pope on the way down in towards his slops. I think Pope might just stay in this. Yes, she does. Inside now for Knickerbrook as there's going wide with Alistair Pollock, and bang! A side swipe coming back across the track to Roy Weller, and both of them are able to keep going.
Oh, shake of the head there from Alistair. I don't know if that was a shake of the head of not being happy with Roy, as Jeffries and Armstrong continue their fight. But Pollock is carrying damage, and I think that's from lap 1 on his car, and it's obviously affecting his speed throughout this race. You can see how much steering input he's having to put in there as well. He's really got a lot of understeer in that car, and it is showing. So, yeah, definitely Pollock, the last thing he wants is to be getting down towards Adam Greaveson and Mike Pierce, although Pierce is on to pit road. I think Pierce is having to admit defeat with damage to his car and to get some repairs done.
Yeah, absolutely. Having to bring that down and in. It's an interesting dynamic now down there in the AM category with no Aidan Carter, More options for the drivers now to try and take the race win. Cavbud leads by 1.3 over Chris Chard. It's fantastic to see the field be so competitive down there. As Cavbud, get this, highest place finished up until this point, 9th. He's currently in the race lead.
And well, why not? This is great. This is wonderful to see. As Pierce, you can see getting lapped there, back out of pit road after getting his fast repair. And for anyone who doesn't know, each of the drivers in this series, if they get significant damage, they can elect to come down to pit road and get a free repair, which is done instantaneously, and then get themselves back out. But of course, you are costing yourself the time of being on pit road. Armstrong is looking aggressive here. He's not giving up this fight for second place.
No, it's keeping Jeffries on his toes, and they're still losing time to Will Eatwell as well. 3 seconds further down the road now as we cross over the halfway point in this race. It's been a crazy first half of the race, but things coming down right at the very front of Pro, with Eatwell able to establish and potentially now maintain this gap back to Jeffries and Armstrong. But Caruana, he's not resting whatsoever. He's going to continue to try and press and get as many positions as possible. And actually, Ben Smith is not going to fight that whatsoever. He actually just flat out gets out of the way and gives him it.
Yeah, I think Smith saw the writing on the wall there, and could see the body language of Caruana's car. You know, incidents can have an effect on drivers in a couple of ways. One, it can either be really detrimental and get into their own heads, or it can motivate somebody to have one of the great drives of a career. And Caruana looks particularly motivated right now to try and move up the field. It looks like at the moment, and I say that knowing that the commentator's curse is very much a real thing, much to what Lewis McGlade thinks, it is an actual real thing. At the moment, it looks like he's going to lose that undefeated winning streak.
Yeah, and car not looking too comfortable there. Just at least on my view, you can see Caruana in the bright red in the back a shot there. He had a bit of a moment coming out of Britain's, trying to get the traction down across Hilltop. So yeah, not the happiest of cars here at the moment, as we continue to look at that battle between Jeffries and Armstrong. Gap has come down for the AM race lead though. Cavbud and Chris Chard are getting closer and closer together, and this is going to be a big defensive effort now from Cavbud. Not been put in this situation in this series before. It's crazy. He's 13th in the championship. Highest place finish before this point, 9th place. And now he has to try and defend the race lead from Chris Chard. Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Chard, of course, with a couple of podiums at the second week of the championship, so at Snetterton. So Chard knows what it's like to be on the podium here in this series in AM, and he'll be looking to get that top step for him in this second race. I mean, it's all been all famine for Cavbud so far this season, but it's been feast today. 6th place in that first race, his best result of the season, but he'll be desperate to hang on for another 12 minutes of this race and get a win.
That would be a heck of a story, wouldn't it? And it would be for Chris Chard as well, getting himself on the top step of the podium, but having had a taste of podiums before, it's slightly less surprising. But either way, it's going to be a fantastic battle between these two, at least we hope, and hopefully it'll carry all the way until the end of this race. And of course, we've got Denise Pope about 3.5 seconds back, who's sort of always looming and potentially maybe a threat if these guys fight a little bit too much, lose that bunch of time. Maybe we'll get the 79 involved in this one as well. This is going to be intriguing, interesting, whatever adjective you want to use to describe it. There was a show that knows already from Chris Chard.
And I tell you what, Denise Pope, if they do get into the podium, that'll be their first podium of the season as well. Although they've got Alistair Pollock behind, seems to have stemmed the bleeding, does Alistair, and is slowly catching up to Denise. So could have some interesting racing happening towards the end of this race in AM.
Indeed, indeed. It seems to be the place to watch here at the moment. Different techniques to get into the shell or hairpin there between the two of them. But they all end up equal coming off the corner. But like I was saying, AM is definitely the place to watch here, I feel like, for the final 10 minutes. Unless you're slightly more interested in the Jeffries-Armstrong battle or Caruana trying to get through the field. I think this race lead fight for your AM category is probably mainly the place you want to look at.
Caruana last lap did set the fastest lap of this second race of the day, so very much on a hard charge right now is Caruana. He's the fastest driver on average in the last 5 laps per lap than anybody else on track in Pro, so he is very much a determined driver. And he's got Luke Andrews. Now, Andrews will put up a bit more of a fight, I feel, than a couple of others that have had him coming on, as Roy Weller trying to make the move on Alistair Pollock.
Yeah, Pollock's not going to appreciate that whatsoever, as Weller, because obviously Pollock is more trying to make sure you can focus on ahead and try and track down Denise Pope for a podium spot. But Roy Weller definitely showing that he wants to try and get himself involved in that as well, and Pollock ending up having to try and defend on the way down in towards Cascades, and actually just makes the move very easy there, does Roy Weller. So maybe Pollock is still struggling with a little bit of damage from earlier on in the race still.
Seems that way, doesn't it? He really hot and cold, I think, is the lap times from Alistair. Seems to be good lap then bad lap, good lap then bad lap is what he seems to be doing right now, looking at his lap time. So yeah, this race for the lead in AM, this is going to carry on all the way to the end here. Cav Bud with that just under half a second lead, trying to keep a hold of that one. It'd be great to see a new person onto the podium, as Armstrong still cannot get past Caruana in the background there. Oh, that was well, that was Caruana putting his car in there and saying, your move, Luke, you either turn in and hit me or you go off the track.
Yeah, that's what we call making the other driver decide whether or not to have an incident or not. It's not like one of the more bullying moves. It's
not like he came in all 4 wheels locked up, to be fair, you know, so it's not like it was the most overly aggressive move, but it was very much a, I've got the inside, your move.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. And you're relying on the other driver having a sense of race preservation to avoid it, potentially. It's not a move I like to see because, again, obviously I like aggressive moves, but when you're giving the driver pretty much only no choice then but to, you know, take the compromise line and lose the position if they want to continue on in the race, I don't really think that's a good thing. Yes, be aggressive, but don't be so aggressive that you're just essentially committing for the sake of committing and essentially doing a bit of a kamikaze move down into the apex.
Well, one important thing that we've got to take into account here as well in terms of the AM battles as well as Pro is that they're catching up to each other. So the Pro drivers, the Pro leader is just catching up to the back of that Alistair Pollock-Roy Weller battle, and the meanwhile some of the others are having to work their way through lap traffic as well. I can tell you that Ed Hope is having a bit of a fight. Oh, there we go on screen, right on cue, and that's with George Tyler. And to the outside, Ed Hope, there's a little bit of rubbing. Oh, be careful, chaps. We've seen incidents happen where people get punted off from getting a bit too close to each other. Compromise through Druids. This is Ben Smith's opportunity now. And again, they're squeezing each other. They're not giving each other space, and contact between the two of them. Oh my goodness, how did they keep it on track?
Almost got themselves into a tangle. Ben Smith, we're on board with him. He has an absolutely mega run coming up across the start-finish line. I don't think George Tyler was quite aware of it. Almost a big instant across the start-finish line. Still a battle in towards turn number 1. Hope is able to hold on for now, but there were multiple moments there where we could have had something catastrophic.
Ed had nearly lost all hope then, but finally manages to stay ahead in 6th place. But this is intense between these drivers, and this is for 6th, 7th,
lap
and
traffic
8th places with lap traffic, as you point out there, Connery.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Adam Graveson, which isn't the slowest lap traffic ever either, as far as the amps are concerned. But Ed Hope will try and get towards his outside. We're on board with Ben Smith as they just negotiate this whole situation through the chicane. Smith, he's going to try and find a gap through because the lap traffic has compromised his competitors, but now it compromises him as he tries to get himself 3 wide down in towards the chicane. This isn't going to work, surely not, but somehow they get through that unscathed. I don't know how that's happened, but that was, I thought, going to be surely an incident.
I can tell you that that's happened. It's called compromises from all 3 drivers. Flash of the headlights there from Adam Greaveson. He's not happy with that. But that was Dave Martin trying to take advantage. Matt Caruana going for 2nd place then, not able to make the move stick on Jack Jeffries. James Armstrong is hanging on here right now. But my goodness, this is fantastic stuff from this 2nd race at Oulton Park. Who said it's hard to overtake around here?
don't know who had said that. Can't have been me. But yeah, absolutely. Caruana has been mega on the recovery drive here at the moment, and Jeffries looking like potentially he's going to struggle to hold on to P2 here. A couple of bits of lap traffic further down the road as well that these guys have to be concerned about. That is Chris Chard and Cav Budd. So that's the battle for the race lead in AM that these guys are coming up on right now. So I doubt these 2 GT4s will be as accommodating as some of the others have been, considering their predicament and considering their battle. Although Chris Chard, interesting decision, pulls out of the way anyway, and hope they compromise Cav Budd more. And they just might, you know, as Jeffries goes down the inside at the first apex here at Hislops, and here comes Matt Caruana as well. Now can Chris Chard follow through on Caruana to try and get to the race lead of AM?
Remember what I said about maybe compromising, thinking big picture, and compromising yourself slightly into getting yourself a better run and a better time out there. Well, James Armstrong giving a little bit of a hip shoulder attack on Cav Budd, your AM leader, and that's allowed Luke Andrews to get involved. Alistair Pollock has got a black flag and has got to come down onto pit road. So Pollock has accumulated enough instant points to get a black flag.
Yeah, looks like that's the case. Maybe it was a bit of, I don't know if it was an off-track that caused her a bit of contact, but either way, Pollock, he's already down and in right now to try and serve that penalty for the incident point limit. There he is. Drive through.
Yeah, and it feels so painful. Now, he is going to come out ahead of Mike Pierce, crucially, but he's behind Adam Greaveson. And when you think of those championship standings coming into this week, it was Greaveson, Pollock and Pierce who were all fighting for 2nd, 3rd and 4th in AM. And look at the speed that Caruana carries into the Britain chicane.
Yeah, crazy stuff indeed. Jeffries safe at the moment on the way down into Hislops and you know, can keep Caruana behind just for another couple of moments. A little bit of oversteer through there. The 47.59 are fighting it out at the moment. That's James Armstrong and Luke Andrews, who've been stuck together like glue for the last couple of moments as well, as we're getting in towards the final minute and a half of this race. The race lead for AM is still within half a second. Race lead for battle for P2 in Pro, less than half a second here between these guys, and Caruana looking for a move every which way.
Can't get past for the time being. If you know where and when to place your car around this track, it can be incredibly difficult to get past. The white flag is in the air. We're on to the last lap. Will Eatwell's got a 5.5 second lead in Pro lead. He's going through towards Ireland, but the battles are continuing all the way through the field.
Armstrong and Andrews continue to be close. Caruana and Jeffries A similar situation. Does Caruana line up for a plunge in towards the shell all hairpin? He's going to go for it. He's going to carry the speed. He gets towards the inside. A lockup for Caruana. Contact in the hairpin. Caruana the wrong way around and loses positions too. Drops back into 6th place, if not further back.
And he's got a black flag as well. Incident points. That's his day done. I think he was asking a lot there to try and make that move, was Matt, but he's done. He's out the car. He's out the session. Oh, that's Ben Smith.
Ben Smith sliding. Ben Smith behind the AM race leaders. They're just going to go through on him on the way down in towards his slops now as we look towards the very front of the field. It's a historic day here at Oulton Park for this season of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain, because we've had consistent race winners throughout this season. But our first different race winner in Pro, it's Will Eatwell coming across the line to take race 2 win here at Oulton Park by 6 seconds over Jack Jeffries, as he'll be heading his way across the line now. As this is absolutely crazy stuff even further back. But looking at Cav Bud, best finish 9th up until this point, 13th in the championship, and it's Cav Bud who comes across the line to take the AM race win here at Oulton Park, race number 2. What an effort, what a defensive display towards the end, trying to manage that gap despite the pressure that Chard is able to put up on him. Chard getting a season best result as well. Denise Pope also on the podium. Crazy stuff happening back there in the AM category, but this was the moment that Caruana lost the opportunity to go for P2.
And it was all to do with that lockup. He was getting squeezed. He came in a bit too fast into the hairpin, locks up, snatches the brake, and as soon as you do that, you're always going to be going into the side of your competitor. As soon as he got that black flag, he knew that his day was done here in the second race. What a second race that was.
2 new race winners. Will Eatwell 6 seconds over Jack Jeffries. James Armstrong getting himself a podium as well. Luke Andrews with P4 and Ed Hope recovering up into a P5 after a turbulent race number 1. Then you've got George Tyler in P6 with Dave Martin P7. Ben Smith, Christian Struter and Matt Caruana is the first car, 1 lap down in 10th place. Then you've got Glenn Humberston, Matthew Crisp, Cody Cosford and Ben Cooper rounding out the 14 cars in the Pro category. And just look at this in Cav Buds. Up until this race meeting, like highest place was 7th place, I believe. In fact, I will correct myself there, but either way it doesn't put a damper on the achievement whatsoever, as he takes the race win here in AM. That is a fantastic performance. Chris Chard also with a fantastic one as well. Of course, got himself 2 third places in race meeting number 2 of this championship, so he gets a season best result here as well. And Denise Pope up onto the podium. Her highest finish so far this season was a 4th place, excuse me. So getting her first podium is a fantastic sight. Then you've got Roy Weller there in P4, another best result of the season so far. So the top 4 all have their best results. Then you've got Adam Graveson in P5 with Wayne Basson P6, Alistair Pollock P7 with Mike Pierce P8 and Aidan Carter, a driver that we're used to seeing winning all the races, is last here in race 2. Well, Paul, that was quite something.
That was intense, that second race. It had pretty much everything happen in that one, for sure. It was great to watch as well. Let's take a word from your pro race winner then, Will Eatwell. Will, I mean, let's quickly touch on that first race, because that was a really close race between you and Matt as well. Sensational stuff from both of you. How did you see that?
Yeah, the first race was really exciting. I was super happy to get pole, but had a bit of a slow launch. Yeah, kept with Matt through most of the race and tried to put a charge at the end. Got quite lucky. I actually broke my steering on the one of the chicane tyre stacks with 10 minutes to go. Really lucky I didn't get a meatball from that.
Yeah, I know all too well about those tyre stacks. But then that second race, I mean, talk about that. You knew you had to get the move done early, didn't you, to try and start gapping out Matt, but it was a heck of a move that you pulled off.
Yeah, I was really focusing on getting the good exits from the key corners, and I was able to get a good run out of T1. Set the move up down into the inside and made it stick. It was really crucial, I think, to get through when I did.
And well, I mean, you look at it, the way that this season's gone, it's been a bit of a difficult season with the number one on the door, but to finally get that race win, it must feel good to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I was really hoping I could get just at least one this season. I've done Oulton Park. Yeah, it's one of my favourite tracks, so I knew I was going to be quite strong here. So yeah, glad to get a win finally.
Well, congratulations, Will, on the results here today, and all the best for the finale next week.
Yeah, thank you.
There we go. That's Will Eatwell, the race winner in race number 2. And for the first time, it's a pleasure to welcome Cav Bud to the commentary box here.
Oh my God.
I mean, I said it in the commentary, it's been pretty much famine all season for you, but this week at Oulton Park, everything seemed to just work in your favour. Talk us through how you're feeling right now.
I'm completely at a loss of words. I mean, thanks to you lot for amazing stuff on the broadcast. Thanks to Motorsports UK for arranging this. Thanks to Porsche for sponsoring this. And thanks to BUSR and Johansson Racing, who I've worked with for years. I can't believe it. I think this is like Hungary, right? This is the British equivalent to Hungary, Monaco without the barriers. So I had to wait for a little bit of luck. I had to just wait for whatever happened with the Porsche Cup on the first lap. I just saw all of them upside down. And when I was in third, I was like, I could do all right. I just got lucky in the end. Chris was so much faster than me, but it's so hard to get past it, Oulton, and Chris never got a run.
You've got to take your chances, and you've done exactly that here today. I mean, as I say, really tough season so far, but it all just fell into place. Even before this race, getting your best result of the season in race 1, so you must have been feeling on a positive run here this week.
Yeah, I don't really understand it, because I only get in from work just before the race, so I had done 0 practice. And when I saw quali, I was like, oh, this is going to be a tricky one. Then at the end of the race, I went, hang on, what's happened here? And then when I was in third, I went, well, let's just see what happens. I did not believe I was going to win that until the moment I crossed the line.
Well, you certainly did well. And looking forward to next week then, Brands Hatch. How do you feel about the Grand Prix layout there?
I mean, I love Brands, I love Tin Tops, I love the BTCC. I'm just here to have fun. Like this is an amazing opportunity to have for people like myself who just sit in their rooms and drive around. I can't afford to get to a real track, so I'm just going to take every opportunity I can to enjoy this. Well,
savour it. You're a race winner in AM here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge GB. Go away and celebrate this one tonight.
Thank you. I'm going to have a cry and some fajitas.
What a plan. Congratulations, Cav.
Thanks.
So that's Cav Bud. Wow, what a combination. A cry and fajitas. I don't know if I'd do it in that order. Jack Jeffries is going to be next up for us here now. And Jack, I mean, talk us through that one. That was a real intense one here today at Oulton Park. A third place and now a second place here in the second race.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I was definitely off the pace in race 1, as you can probably see. Yeah, I'm just not really up to scratch against these big boys. But race 2, I got a little bit lucky with Matt getting unfortunate with that little incident around turn 2. And yeah, just tried to hold off until the end, really, until I need to have a look back at it in a second. But that incident that caught Matt and caused him to spin. But yeah, it wasn't the best night for me.
You know you've got high standards when a 2 podium finishes is not the best night, but looking at this as a whole this season, I know you came into this week second place in the Pro Championship. You still in a good position going into this final week at Brands Hatch. How are you looking forward to next week at the GP Loop?
I think from this point onwards, Paul, I'm just sort of going to be having fun with it. I haven't taken this night too seriously. I've been having too much stuff on. But yeah, I'm just going to be going into the next race and just having a bit of fun and just enjoying myself, which is what we should all be doing, really. It shouldn't be too serious at times.
Well, like I say, 2 podiums, though. Really good results still to take away from this week, and all the best for next week.
Thank you, Paul. Have a good night.
That's Jack Jeffries then speaking to him. Next one to speak to will be Chris Chard, and hopefully we get to speak to him. I mean, Chris, this season, looking at your results, you've had 2 podiums this season so far at Snetterton. Oulton Park, another narrow track. You seem to be suited to these narrow tracks.
Yeah, I really enjoy Oulton Park and Snetterton, actually. They're 2 of the sort of tracks that I've used the most, you know. But yeah, that was tough. That was really tough.
But you've still been able to get yourself a really good result, especially in the second race. But, I mean, talk us through having to follow Cav Bud, and also talk us through about having to deal with those pro traffic coming through towards the end whilst you're trying to fight for the lead as well.
Yeah, so Cav's really fast, man. I feel like I had the pace on him. I perhaps would have caught him, but we sort of hit traffic at an unlucky time, and yeah, I was trying to play it smart and not do anything silly and get caught in anything. And by the time the car's cleared, Cav was up the road, and he had seemed to have a slightly better run with the pro traffic than me. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. That was a great race. I do think I was perhaps a bit too kind to some of the pro cars. I got out of the way and really compromised myself. But it's all lessons. This is my first sort of esports league, so I'm really enjoying it.
Wow, what a series to come in as a first series. But looking forward to next week then. Brands Hatch, what's your thoughts on that as a track? Is it somewhere that you enjoy?
Yeah, I enjoy Brands as well, actually. I love all the British tracks, to be fair, but yeah, I seem to like the narrow ones and the ones that are harder to pass on. Unfortunately, it does mean you have to sort of get your elbows out a bit more. But yeah, hopefully we'll keep it clean and just build on the experience here. It's been really good to see how fast the proper guys are.
Well, go away, enjoy yourself this evening. A really good result there, especially in the second race.
Thanks, guys.
So there we go. That's Chris Chard joining us. We'll get to have a word with our race 1 winner now in AM, and that's Aidan Carter. It must feel bad though. The perfect run has come to an end, Aidan.
Yeah, it has. Hi, guys. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame that it's come to an end. I think it was due at some point. It's a shame it went in the way it did, but hey, I'm happy to have gotten as good as I did up until that point. So yeah, we'll hopefully get all of the bad luck out in one go, and then it'll be hopefully better next time out.
Well, I mean, both you and Matt have both had that bad luck on the same race as well. But that first race, you were made to really work for that win, weren't you? It was not easy for you out there.
No, definitely wasn't. Yeah, Adam was doing really well. Racing him in the practice sessions as well. He seemed to be quite a bit faster than me, so I was surprised to out-qualify him, if I'm honest. And yeah, I was just struggling in the first kind of 10-15 minutes of that race with a lot of understeer. I just couldn't get the front of the car to turn in, and Adam seemed to have a much better grip on it. So it's a shame that he had some sort of hardware issue or whatever. I don't really know what happened to him, but without that, I think it would have been a close finish to the end between the two of us. But that's the thing. I think the first race for me was one in qualifying because it's so difficult to pass here.
I mean, sort of looking at the championship, we were having to work out the points. If you have a 54-point lead going into the final round of the championship, provisionally you will be champion. Obviously, that's pending any post-event penalties and stewards' decisions, but it must feel nice knowing that you've got a comfortable lead going into that final round of the championship.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think the fact that I've been able to build up quite a nice cushion is great for events like the second race. So I've got a bit of a buffer at least, so that I can have a really bad race like that one and somewhat get away with it. And yeah, it just means again going into the final round that if I haven't already met the 54-point target, then I'm quite close to it already, so I can kind of relax a bit and not have to worry too much about everything going perfectly.
Well, all the best, Aidan, and good luck for next week.
Thank you very much, guys.
And we do have one driver waiting, so we'll very quickly speak to Mike Pierce. Mike, mixed fortunes, I think it's safe to say, today for you. Talk us through the events from your point of view.
Well, I saw a Porsche Cup car going to space, full on SpaceX mode, straight up in the air. So I checked up, and unfortunately, I don't think Alistair managed to stop in time, and he rear-ended me into Aidan, and then I just had too much damage. It was just what it was. I didn't know how bad the damage was, but it felt pretty bad when I kept going straight on at druids and things like that. And I pitted, fixed the damage, came back out, and I was 2 seconds quicker. So that's how bad the damage was.
Oh dear, yes. But look at that first race, second place in class, really good result for you in your charge to try and get into that top 3 in the championship. It was just unfortunate how things panned out in the second race.
Yeah, exactly that. We were going into the race thinking, right, realistically, I need to beat Alistair and I need to beat Adam. But mainly Adam gained points because me and Alistair are teammates. So realistically, we want to beat Adam. Then we see Adam has the incident, so we're like, oh, that's good for us point-wise. It's unfortunate, but it's good for us. And then we just wanted to carry that through race 2, and unfortunately we weren't able to do that. The pace was really good today, though. The pace was very close at the top. Really good.
And looking forward to next week then. Brands Hatch, the Grand Prix layout. It's all to play for still for you, isn't it?
It really is. I don't know. I need to see the standings after tomorrow once everything's been decided. But I know going into the race that Adam was 5 ahead of me and Alistair was 1 ahead of me for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the AM Championship. So it was massively to pay for today. And then this has really probably shaken things up. So we'll have a see what comes out tomorrow. But it could be very, very tight.
Well, we'll certainly enjoy watching that one. Commiserations on the second race, but still, really good result in the first one.
Thanks.
There we go, Connery. Getting to hear from a lot of your drivers there and a lot of happy people. Cav Bud in particular, what a deserved result.
Yes, absolutely. It's great when we have an underdog story, right? It's great when, I mean, we're all British, we all love a good underdog, don't we? And to have Cav Bud take the race win here, Chard have a good race, Pope have a good race getting on the podium. It's sort of feel good stories all around down in the AM category there. Of course, unless your name is Aiden Carter, for example. But yeah. Incredible stuff down in that category. Of course, we had the chopping and changing action in Pro as well, which is an intriguing point. But this whole race meeting now drawing itself to a close. Now we have to set our sights ahead to next week for our final race meeting of the season on October 27th, same time, same place next week. We go to Brands Hatch to close this out with our final 2 races of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. I'll be here for it. Paul will probably be here for it as well. We'll be here for it here on RaceSpotTV, streaming, of course, on the Porsche Twitch channel and on the Motorsport UK platforms, and of course our own YouTube channel as well. It's been a really fun time here at Oulton Park, but we will have to say goodbye and good night, and see you next time.
try and look for the inside, but it was closed off. There was absolutely no way through there.
He's a determined driver. He'll be trying everything he possibly can.
This is where the excitement's at. This has been really intense.
This is a really spicy battle.
It's still absolutely neck and neck. Right, so swapping paint between the two of them.